Welcome everyone to this virtual career fair. I am Amy Steenhook with DMAC, and I have Michael Whitrock on with us today to talk a little bit about careers in law enforcement and the career pathway and his experiences. So welcome, Michael. If you could just start by introducing yourself and giving us a little background, that would be fantastic, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Like you said, my name is Michael Whitrock. Right now I'm serving as a detention officer for the Story County Sheriff's Office. Prior to this, I worked for 3 years for the Department of Public Safety for the State Patrol at the Capitol. And prior to that, I went to DMAC for criminal justice down there in Ankeny. So from Glidden, originally over by Carroll, just west of Boone and Ames. Graduated high school, went to college for a couple of years. Got started with the DPS my third semester at DMAC, worked there, like I said, at the Capitol for a couple of years, and came up to Story County in early 2019. So right now I am a detention officer, so I'm assigned to the jail division of the Sheriff's Office. Our Sheriff's Office has several divisions. We have the jail division, which is detention officers who work obviously in the jail, managing inmates, doing transports, that kind of stuff. We have the officers on the road, the deputies that are, on the patrol function of the sheriff's office. You see them driving around in the cars, making traffic stops, responding to calls for service. We also have communications, which is dispatching. We have civil deputies, which serve things like no contact orders and kind of help any sort of civil law issues we have in the county. On top of that, we have several special team functions. We have a dive team, we have a SWAT team, a negotiation team. We do active shooter training with schools in the area. We have just a really wide kind of girth of things we can do in terms of what we call secondary duties. So like I said, I started with the state for 3 years, and that was during my time in college. As far as education for this line of work, we do hire high school graduates straight out of high school. It's not required to have a college degree. A lot of departments in the metro in Des Moines and Ames, bigger cities will want that 2-year degree at least, but it's not always required. But it is required in a lot of places for promotions. For example, in the jail, our jail administrator is required to hold a 4-year degree. So you do kind of have that those hurdles once you kind of move up the chain of command to where you'd like to have a good education, 2-year, 4-year. It all depends on the department you're going for. I got my degree in criminal justice. Like I said, I went to DMAC in Ankeny. I loved it. It was a great experience for me. I made a lot of connections there, and was really active in the criminal justice club when I was up there. I was the president of that for a year. I did my internship at ILEA, which is the Law Enforcement Academy, and that was a good experience to kind of reach out and network. So any questions so far? I mean, I'm going to ramble otherwise. I'm always happy to take any questions, but
Michael, what prompted you to get into law enforcement?
I think I kind of figured it out once I got out of high school. I originally wanted to be an agriculture education teacher. I wanted to be an ag teacher, and I got to college, and I kind of saw, I guess it kind of brought me in. It seemed like an exciting career. It seemed like something that would always be new, always be different, and it definitely is. The things we see every day, it's never. One day is always different from the next day. Even now that I work in the jail, I mean, we just the things you see in terms of, we have everything in Story County from your public intox, drunk college kid that's just having too much fun, as we say, to people that are in jail right now for like murder first degree. So there's just a wide plethora of just from one end of the scale to the other. We have almost everything, and you never know what you're going to get every day. That being said, working in the jail too, we are all armed and ILEA firearms certified, so we do cross train and cross participate. We have people in the jail that are members of the SWAT team. We have people in the jail that are members of the dive rescue team. So the opportunity is there to get out in the public. I worked a couple Iowa State games, and those are always fun, being out in the field and hanging out and watching the game and making transports and making arrests and stuff. So it seemed exciting, and it's exciting, but there's also a community aspect to it that brought me in. That's part of the reason I left the state for a county level position, is because with the state, you have a very wide. Can you hear me? There we go. Okay, no problem. Like I was saying, the county level kind of attracted me because you have more of a interaction with your community. You have a smaller area to patrol. You have a smaller area to work with, so it's easier to make those connections as opposed to multi-county level jurisdiction. But let's see. Criminal justice degree from DMAC will allow you to do either. Yep, a criminal justice degree will allow you to do either. There are different kind of levels of law enforcement in the state of Iowa. Police officers and sheriff's deputies all go through the same academy, which is the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. It's held by the state. Police departments have, obviously they patrol a city or a smaller kind of area. Like, for example, Ames Police Department patrols just Ames, where the sheriff's office patrols the whole county. But as far as education and requirements, those are pretty identical, just different departments. To whereas the state patrol does do their own academy, and all these academies are at Camp Dodge in Johnson at the military base there. But the state patrol has their own academy. It's a little bit more paramilitary style. It's a little more strict, and LEA has their own. I guess to break it down, police officers and deputies go through LEA, and then any sort of state law enforcement goes to the state law enforcement academy. But as far as education, it's all the same. The state patrol will take you out of high school as well, but you cannot be on we call it the road. You can't leave the Capitol until you're 22. So if you're between 18 and 22, you have to work at the Capitol for the state patrol, to whereas if you work for a police department or sheriff's department, you can be on the road at 18, provided they hire you. So, and it really is kind of a mixed bag. It depends on who you are and how you interview and how you test. We'll talk about the testing process too, but I've seen people get hired at 18 that are absolutely great at the job. And I've seen guys that have, tested till they're 26, 27, gotten hired, and they've been great too. So there are a lot of different paths, whether you choose to go to college for 4 years, whether you choose to go straight to the workforce. I don't think there's any inherent difference that I see between performance. I think you have good people that take both paths. So just to kind of touch on the hiring process, one of the things that I do for the department is I'm a liaison for DMAC and other areas that want career fairs, that want people to come speak. So I do that. That's kind of a recruiting phase. If you're interested in a career in law enforcement, I'd really, really, really urge you to reach out to an agency and schedule a ride along, or just talk to them, because that's I think the best way to get hired. The thing I've seen is to make sure they know you before the process, because if they know your name and it pops up on that list when you apply, they're gonna make that association like, oh, I know them, they've ridden with us before, they do a good job, or they're professional, they're polite. So make that connection early on. I know I started riding with my sheriff's office in Carroll County when I was in high school as part of a school program through DMAC. So that's kind of what kind of got me hooked. So I'd urge you to reach out for that right now. As far as the actual testing, there is, we required by the state of Iowa to be a physical and written test for any law enforcement position. The physical test, a 1.5 mile run, it's push-ups, sit-ups, and then a sit and reach test where you sit down and reach for your feet, which I'm terrible at, and I've never been flexible my entire life. So you would think that'd be the easiest one, but for me, it was always a hurdle. But we do in the sheriff's office and the jail division have a different physical test, which is a shorter run. And we have a dummy lift where we grab a dummy that simulates a hanging inmate and lift it up. And then we have a sled drag too. So it's different by department. The state patrol has the same 1.5 mile, push-up, sit-up, sit and reach, but they have a higher requirement for scoring than most cities or counties do. And then obviously once you do the physical test, you'll go on to the written test, which is the post test, police officer selection test, which is arithmetic, grammar, spelling, etc. So it's high school level stuff. I would encourage you to test right out of high school, right out of college if you can, because I know the longer you wait between when you went to school and when you test, you kind of lose some of that knowledge. I know I did. I got to the math portion. I'm like, oh man, I haven't done division in a year and a half. Like, it comes back to you, but it kind of catches you off guard because you just haven't. Not that you haven't used it necessarily, but I just have a calculator or a phone. You don't have that there. So, Amy asked, what is the thing you like most about your job? What's the biggest challenge? I like the camaraderie we have between other people I work with. Whether you have a good day or a bad day, I have a lot of good friends that work with me. You get really close. You have, in the jail, we call them incidences, which are uses of force. You could have, get in a fight. You could have somebody, attempt to commit suicide. Someone could attempt to, bring somebody into the jail, to where you have that challenge, but you have those people there to back you up and help you out with that. And through those, I guess, trials, you really build a good relationship. I have friends that I could tell anything to, that they can do the same with me. So I think part of what I like the most is the friendships I've made with the people I work with, but also the friendships in the community is also great. I like being able to walk into like a Casey's or something, they know who I am, and we'll talk to them, for 5-10 minutes, stand there, and or even like when I walk into the courthouse and I know the judge, or I know some of the lawyers, and they ask you how you are, you feel like you are a part of your community, and that's what I'm going for in this line of work. As far as the biggest challenges, there are some tough days. There are some things that you see that, that aren't advertised, I guess, that aren't on the TV shows. You have the fun fight, when you're young, and, but when you get old, I know a lot of the old guys like to avoid those because they get hurt, when you get hurt and then you start aching. I know between the vest and the belt, you get bad back out of it. And a lot of the guys complain about having sore backs, and so it does wear you down pretty quick, body-wise, and I know mentally too if you're not careful. But we do have in Story County, we call it peer support, which is officers that are given special mental health training that are there to, if you have a mental health issue or if you've had a bad day, you can reach out to them confidentially and they'll talk to you. So I guess, I said the thing I like most is just the involvement in the community and the friendships I've made. And the biggest challenges are just, keeping your head on straight some days when you have rougher days. But even that being said, it's not, at least I don't have any big issue with that at all. I know some people struggle, but I've never really had an issue with that. It's all on who you are and how you kind of interact with it. And this job isn't for everybody. And that's one thing I've always said too when I speak at DMAC is, I had a lot of people in my class that were in college with me that would have been great cops that got to the street and said, I don't want to do this my entire life. And that's totally okay. That's why I'd encourage you right now to do ride-alongs, to interact with people like this in career fairs and ask questions, because it is a very attractive job, especially to young people. You get to drive fast cars, flashing lights, and they give you a gun, and it seems like it's cool. You have all these TV shows that glorify cops and stuff, but then you have I have a lot of friends that still work for the State Patrol that are down in Des Moines with the protests right now, working, 14, 15 hours a day, getting stuff thrown at them, getting yelled at, and it can wear on you. So, but, that being said, I think that the positive interactions very, very, very heavily outweigh the negative ones. It's definitely very, very rewarding career. I couldn't see myself doing anything differently, to be honest with you. You should take the good with the bad, like any other job you have. So, going back to the hiring process too, should you pass the written test and the physical test, we also do a background investigation. That's one of my duties with the sheriff's office. I'm an investigator, to where we'll call, your high school, we'll call your family, we'll call your friends, we'll call your references. We'll canvass your neighborhood. We'll kind of dig up any dirt we can on you. Everybody has something. We're not looking for, perfect people. We're looking for honest people. And that's one thing I'll tell you too. A big takeaway from this career is always be honest. I've seen people that have really screwed up and been honest about it and kept their job. And I've seen people that have done small things and lied about it and get fired on the spot. So honesty and integrity are big in this line of work.
Michael, along those lines, there are certain things, right, that even like speeding tickets and minor misdemeanors that don't allow you to enter this line of work, correct?
Right. There are certain things that'll, obviously, any sort of like domestic abuse charges will disqualify you immediately. In the state of Iowa, domestic abuse conviction means you can't carry a firearm. Generally, things like OWI, drunk driving charges will keep you out. And that goes department by department too. I mean, it's more of a pattern of honesty. I mean, we've had guys that we've hired that have admitted to marijuana use, that have had 3 or 4 speeding tickets in the last 5 years, but are honest about it. And we're looking for a pattern. I mean, if you have a ticket every 2 months, they're going to look at that and go, well, you're not quite mature enough to handle the job yet. And the reason we do that is because we don't want to put someone in a police car that's going to be driving 70 to 35. We don't want someone in a police car that's going to be coming to work drunk, or that's, smoking drugs off of work. So but like I said, the biggest thing is integrity. We've had people we've hired that have gotten, underage drinking charges or speeding tickets or things like that, that have put 3 or 4 years behind them and came in and been honest about it and said, hey, yeah, I was young, I screwed up. So don't think that just because you got a couple of tickets when you're young, that disqualifies you. Just keep trying. They'll find a department that fits you, that wants it. I know specifically the DPS, the State Patrol, won't take you if you smoked marijuana in the last, I think, 3 years. I think that's about as strict as it gets in terms of drug use. Crimes that we call moral turpitude, things like theft. Theft is something we'll look at a little harder because that's a crime against somebody else specifically as opposed to speeding. So we got another question here. Who do I contact for ride-alongs for high school students? If you call your local department, that'll usually have a process to sign up for that. There's usually a waiver. If they're under 18, you'll usually have an adult pass to sign a release as well for liability reasons. You could try the county, you could try the city law enforcement, so either your police department or your sheriff's office. I know the State Patrol doesn't really do ride-alongs. Just off of a schedule, you can always ask. It's different post by post. So, and with COVID too, I'm not sure what their policy is as well. I know we're still doing a couple, but we're really trying to avoid them right now. But like I said, you can call your sheriff's office, call your police department and ask them, and they usually have a program. I know here at Story County, we have what's called the Citizens Academy. The Citizens Academy is you can come in and it's for people interested in law enforcement or community interaction or service. I think it's once a week for 6 or 7 weeks, excuse me, where you'll show up and you'll actually interact with the sheriff's office deputies, jailers, active shooter trainers. You'll go to the range, you'll go out and ride-alongs, you'll sit and dispatch with our communication officers. So definitely check in with your local departments, because there are a lot of things that they offer that that you wouldn't even maybe have heard of. I know I hadn't heard of until I started working for the sheriff's office, that we did this Citizens Academy. So
Michael, if people want to contact you about ride-alongs, like could they put you in could you put them in touch with the right person?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you give my DMAC or my sheriff's office email, I can for sure forward that on to the front office, and you can always call us at our general number too. They can set you up as well. So
okay, I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and the Citizen Academy is Lieutenant Gary Backus, and I can forward that email on to you as well, or whoever asks me, I can forward it on to him. So, but definitely reach out. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities in the sheriff's office. Again, I've always said when it comes to getting hired, it's who you know and how you know them, because this is a career field where they're gonna judge you on your decisions and your judgment calls and your character. And so if you have someone else that can vouch for you that we know has good character, that's going to be probably quicker foot in the door than most other things you can find. So is there anything I skipped over when I was talking here that you have questions on still? Or?
I just asked a question, but I think you've kind of hit on some of them. I just said, what skills do you think people need to have in order to be successful in this line of work? Right. I mean, you mentioned integrity and being honest and having a good record. What are other things that come to mind?
Right. I definitely would say get in shape. That's a big, it's not necessarily a requirement. You obviously have to pass the physical test, but I know that the guys and gals I work with that are in shape definitely have an easier time, especially working in a jail environment. I mean, you're working with inmates, and they don't always size you up necessarily, but it's good to be able to, be squared away, be professional. You definitely want to have that interaction with, whether it's an inmate or it's the public. You want them to think that you know what you're doing. So just being in good shape and being good talking to people, that's a good thing too. I could, think of a couple different things you could do in terms of, whether you're taking the speech class, whether you're working with college classes or coursework, just make sure you have a good head on your shoulders, I guess. Like I said, integrity is the biggest part of it, because we'll teach everything you want to know. When I got hired, they'll send you to the range, they'll teach you how to shoot a gun. They'll give you taser certification, you'll get tased, you'll get your pepper spray exposure, you'll get certified with that. They'll teach you how to fight, they'll teach you how to talk, they'll teach you how to walk. So Most important thing to do is come with a good head on your shoulders and squared away. Have good integrity, good honesty. Everything else we can kind of teach you, but if you don't have that foundation, you're not going to make it very far. So Amy asked what a typical day is like. I work second shift, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. I'll get to work. We have in the jail where I work primarily, we have a couple of different posts. We have booking, which is like kind of the intake of prisoners. We have the master control room, which controls all the doors in the jail. We don't actually have hard keys for most doors. It's just controlled electronically. That way we can't, it's less of an escape risk because no one can take our keys and leave. So it's all controlled by a room with cameras that kind of hits buttons and opens doors as we walk. So you have our housing unit, which is used for higher risk inmates. Those were the guys that are there for like murder first or robbery or gun charges usually get held. We have females that are held in housing too, away from males. They're required to be sight and sound separate from males. And then we have what's called APOD, which is a direct supervision, which means I stand in a room behind a desk with up to 40 inmates that kind of just walk around in front of me and come right up to me and talk to me. So like I said, I get there, we go 3 to 11. They lock down at 10 p.m. for the night. They do have a bedtime, as we call it. So at 10 p.m. they go to their cells, they go to bed. We have 3 meals a day. We have breakfast on about 5. We have lunch at about noon. We have dinner at about 5 p.m. So you kind of get to work. You do. There's a lot of different, like in the jail at least, different kind of hats you wear. We do pass medication. We're required to go to ILEA and get medication passing school. So we're kind of the acting nurse. We give out medication to inmates around 4 p.m. We feed them around 5. We lock down for an hour from 6 to 7, and the rest of the night they kind of hang out. So it could be as easy as answering questions for inmates. It could be as hard as, breaking up fights. So it's, like I said earlier, you never know what you're going to get. And that's one of the things that I like about this so much, is that it could be an easy day, it could be a hard day, but it's dictated by kind of where you're at. So when Terry asked what the salary base is and retirement benefits, we start in the jail at about $44,000 a year. We do have IPERS, which is a state retirement fund. We're a protected class, fortunately. So we are, knock on wood, pretty safe with IPERS and stuff. Basically how that works is you pay into it, and throughout your entire career, once you retire, you can start drawing from it. So you work for, let's say, another state employee, for 25, 30 years. And once you're old enough, you can retire and they'll pay out your retirement the rest of your life. So that's one thing that draws a lot of guys to this line of work too. I have a friend that started at 18 that, be able to retire very young. He'll have to almost wait to draw. He'll be too young to actually draw his benefits by the time he retires at 30 years in. So it's as far as benefits, we do have county health care. We have a lot of county benefits in terms of, what's called First Nurse. They give you free access to a doctor. We have, life insurance, health insurance, dental insurance, all through the county if you want it at a very good rate. Like I said, paid through the county. So deputies obviously get a take-home car. They get to drive to and from work without burning their own gas. We're provided uniforms, equipment. We're provided a certain amount of money to a school every year. If we want to continue our education, they'll give us a certain dollar amount to continue to do that they'll pay for. Like I said, they give you your equipment. We get, all of our duty belt, handcuffs, gun, uniforms, badge, all that's provided to us. No cost to us. So they really outfit you. It's really easy when you go to work and you wear the same thing every day, because it just takes 10 minutes out of your day. It's all uniformity. So typical work week, hours and vacation. We do a 6 on, 3 off. So we'll work 6 8-hour days in a row and then have 3 days off. So that 6th day can sometimes be kind of long, but that 3rd day off is always nice. It's a 3-day weekend every weekend. So especially with vacation, I know I'm taking the last week of October off. So I took 6 vacation days. Well, I have 3 days off on each side. So using 6 days, I'm getting 12 days off. So, all you have to do is take a week off and you have almost, a third of the month off. So that's very nice. We get all sorts of overtime, comp time. We get vacation paid out to us. We get vacation, I guess I should say, banked. We can use vacation. Every paycheck, we get a certain amount of vacation hours we can build up and use. We get what's called personal days. They'll give us 60 hours of time off automatically at the first of the fiscal year. So July 1st, we get 60 hours to use whenever we want. And we also have what's called comp time. So if we work overtime, we can bank that overtime and use it as time off, if that makes sense. I know it's a lot to I didn't understand any of this when I first started, so it might be especially when I was in high school, I didn't care. I didn't care about retirement, or I didn't care about that kind of stuff. But do you get easier assignments than the harder ones? So one of the nice things about the Story County Sheriff's Office is that we do have a lot of secondary duties. And the harder you work to put in, the more they kind of look at you and give you these duties. So like I said, I do the career fairs, I do the background investigations, I do disciplinary stuff in the jail. We have guys that are on the dive team, guys that are on the SWAT team. So kind of the more effort you put into work, the more duties you'll get. But if it's the things you like, it's like I enjoy doing this. I enjoy career fairs. I enjoy going to schools, especially when it's in person and meeting people, making connections. I enjoy doing our background investigations a lot. So if it's something that you really like, it's very easy, it seems like. So the more you get under your belt, the more duties you get under your belt, the easier it is for you. I have a very easy day a lot of days because I'm doing those things that I really enjoy on top of my normal duties. And any more questions? How does a shop compare? There's you worked. I always make the joke, I grew up in the country, and it's much easier being a farmer. I mean, it's strenuous labor wise. Like that's one thing. A lot of the best police officers I know and detention officers are farm kids that, were feeding cows in -10-degree weather and said, I'm not doing this the rest of my life. So they came to work, law enforcement. You get a car, you get a gun, it's very easy. It's not very easy. You do, risk your life and safety, but especially in the jail, like I'm not standing outside when it's -10. I'm drinking coffee in a air conditioned or heated building. So I think it's very similar to the public service industries. Like if you've worked like in retail, even, you definitely have to have that like customers always right mentality. To an extent anyways, you want to be able to go out there and be polite and be courteous. I know a lot of good police officers come from retail to where they've kind of been able to have someone yell at them. The nice thing about this job is, to an extent, you don't have to take the stuff. If you work in a store, the customer yells at you, you get in trouble for yelling back at them. To where you work in jail, like there's a certain line where you're professional with them, and then at one point you say, okay, no, you're done. Like even police officers, there's more of an ability to be able to put your foot down and defend yourself. But the department had us trained to Black Lives Matter. So we already were fortunate enough, Sheriff Fitzgerald does actually meet with the NAACP every couple of months already. So we have a very good relationship with Black Lives Matter and the NAACP in our community. So that paid off for sure. We didn't really have any protests like you saw in other places because of that relationship. So we kind of got ahead of it. So we do already have anti-bias training, which we are doing extra now. Implicit bias training is what we call it. So that's required by the state, but we already kind of had a good amount of that training. I think we have a very good job. We have a very diverse community in Ames with Iowa State. So we kind of have all walks of life, and we've been able to get out ahead of it before we had to, I guess, need it. But as far as mental health training, we have, like I said, peer support every year. We also have, a crisis intervention team, which kind of does mental health training as well, which is something I'm trying to go forward to, where you're trained to kind of deal with mental health emergencies, but those are more specialized. We get maybe 8 hours a year of bias training, 8 hours a year of mental health training, but that's about all we get. That's still, I think that's a lot compared to other agencies, especially smaller ones. So.
All right. Well, Michael, you have given us a wealth of information and a lot of things to think about here. So I really want to say thank you for your time, for your expertise, and for sharing with us this afternoon. Are there any more questions from those in attendance?
And if you do, you can sure reach out to me on that email address too. If you send me an email, I'll get back to you as soon as I can with any information I've got. So.
Fantastic. One little plug, if you are interested students, DMACC does have a Criminal Justice High School Academy at the Ames Hunziker Center. That's open to juniors and seniors. And again, DMACC has a fantastic criminal justice program that Michael is a graduate of. So just wanted to put that out there. With that, Michael, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, definitely. Like you said, DMACC is a great program. Definitely get involved as soon as you can. My little brother's doing the Career Academy. He's a high school student as well. He's doing the DMACC academy. So he loves it. It's a great. So I agree with all that plugging you did for DMAC. Definitely a great school. Go Bears. So.
All right. Well, thanks again, Michael. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.